Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting of the Nevada State Wildlife Commission order. It's Friday, September 21st, 9 a.m., just after 9 a.m. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Range, could you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Suzanne, can we do roll call, Commissioner? Here?
Here? Here.
Yep.
Here.
Now, could the county advisory boards stand up? And I did receive a phone call from Elko County last night. They had some conflicts and they called in and said they were not going to be able to make it, but I appreciate that phone call. With that, let's move on to approval of agenda. I know we need to move a few items around.
Just for discussion purposes, a couple housekeeping items. The director has asked that we handle LCB files. Let me get the numbers right. 14812 special permits and 15312 on the desert tortoise, and handle those together. So I would make a motion to move 9G to 9B, and the companion on that would be 16. So the motion would be to move 16G to 16A, and actually move 16A LCB file R15812 trapping trail closures to 16H, and that should allow Commissioner McNinch to get back down from Reno.
Thank you, Jeremy, and I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more, Commissioner Rain? Commissioner McBeth?
There's nothing that binds us to Robert's Rules of Order, and to make it as simple as possible, we can cherry pick out of Robert's Rules of Order whatever we want to run this commission as effectively and efficiently as we can. And so since this change occurred on my watch when I was chairman, I've had this discussion with our AG, and it was blessed, and so the chairman has full authority to change the agenda, and that should be the end of it.
Okay, any further discussion? Scott? Any further discussion from the commission? This is an action item, so we will go out to public comment. Any public comment on the proposed changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to a vote. All those in favor of the changes noted signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Member items and announcements, correspondence. Commissioners may present items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. The commission will review and discuss any correspondence sent and received by the commission since the last regular meeting and may provide copies for the exhibit file. Anybody have items they'd like to present? Commissioner Rain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll remember to push my button this time. I always got to remember to push the button. Okay, a couple things. I had one which goes back a ways, and I'll give a copy of this to Suzanne for the record. And this is something that comes out of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and it is: the service declares Wyoming gray wolf recovered under Endangered Species Act and returns management authority to the state. This came out August 31st of this year. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service announced today that Wyoming population of gray wolves recovered, and basically what it comes back into is that 90% of the state of Wyoming, speaking rough numbers there, allows them to be, basically they have a category we do not, which is predator as way it sounds, and they can be shot at any point in time in 90% of their state. And the other 10%, they have certain plans for hunting and various population goals in that other rough 10% of their state. And I'll bring back to the commission that back in September 21st, 22nd, 2007, this commission, it was brought up as an item. It went on for various hearings. I believe it was February of 2008. It was finally approved as item 2B in June of 2008 to put them as a game mammal. And we were told repeated times, I believe a couple people, at least two people on the commission at that time, three, I believe. If you'll remember, and I got some of the minutes here, and I would ask just for the record so I don't have to read them all, and I know Suzanne has them, so just item 2B from the June 28th agenda, the wolf item, if you could restate that in this record so I don't have to re-read it, so everybody can have a chance to read it at the next meeting. We were given advice by the administration and by staff that we would never, ever, no one would ever, rough words, get any plan passed if we did not have them listed as a big game animal. That was the only real path forward. No state would get a management plan passed. That was the advice we were given. I would say that the actions here prove that to be dead wrong unless the Fish and Wildlife Service's press release is erroneous, which I don't believe it is. Additional items. I noticed I picked this up yesterday and noticed the Nevada Department of Wildlife got some press in a magazine, Muley Crazy magazine. I ought to read it. It was kind of interesting. Article came out, several pages in here. It might be deemed critical, perhaps. Might be other words for it, of the Department of Wildlife. It comes out, and I'll just read one brief paragraph, I think summarize it, but everybody should be aware of it. Many commissioners are indeed mentioned in it. They believe the director's mentioned, I don't know, count a dozen times, 10, whatever. Many people are named by names in here about actions. Sad reality is that it doesn't matter how big a predator problem Nevada has, it doesn't matter how poor the habitat is. In fact, it doesn't really matter what the negative factors are. In the end, it comes down to a deep-rooted corruption within the ranks of NDEL to continue to suppress one of Nevada's most precious and valued big game resources, the mule deer. It explains that in several pages. Rather interesting. You might want to take a look at that. That was something I hadn't seen till, like I say, yesterday. Another item of local interest out in Eureka, that came out here, and I'll give a copy to Suzanne. Slightly torn, seen a little life, but Sheriff's Alert. Eureka County Sheriff's Office has received several credible reports regarding the sighting adult mountain lion in the town of Eureka. Sheriff's requesting assistance. Residents of Eureka regarding additional sightings. Contact Sheriff's Office. Had mountain lion killing deer, and people, I believe it was the head of the Public Works' yard in front of in town. Various animals in town. You know, we're not talking out in the boondocks. We're talking, you know, right there in their yards. And as far as I know, asking them, it was the sheriff's office doing all the work, and you know, I'm not sure about their exact relationship with the Department of Wildlife and who, and whether or not what assistance they asked for. But this is one of the flyers going around, and there's a lot of people really worried about these issues. And it wasn't just one sighting; it was multiple sightings. Speak to Kim Jones, County Sheriff, about that particular issue. It is indeed an issue and has been an ongoing issue around there. I believe that's a little over a year ago. They had to shoot one up next to somebody's house, had half of somebody's cat in its mouth. You know, that was about 50 yards from the school. You know, it's an issue, and it'll continue to be an issue. There's a lot of community. Eureka's rural, but there's a lot of communities out there that are even more rural than Eureka, speaking, and it's something this commission needs to be cognizant of. Exact actions to be taken by the commission, not so much. It's an administration issue, but the commission needs to be apprised of what's going on. And that ought to cover me for the moment. Thank you.
Commissioner Macbeth.
A while back, I believe it was after the May, after our May meeting, former Wildlife Commissioner, former Chairman Gerald Lent filed an open meeting law complaint against me. And we have now received a response from the Attorney General's office, and I'd like to read it into the record, or most of it. This office has reviewed your open meeting law complaint alleging the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners privately discussed Nevada Department of Wildlife NDOW proposed hunting quotas for 2012-2013 with the intent to reach a decision. The basis for this allegation is an email correspondence sent on May 3rd, 2012 from the chair of the Board of Wildlife Commissioners to the chair of each county advisory board to manage wildlife. The allegation rests upon the assertion that the chair's email correspondence is a deliberation toward a decision outside of a public meeting. Let me give you some background for those that you that aren't aware. During all of the years that I've been on the county advisory board in Clark County, prior to being on the commission, and my 4 years on the commission has pretty much, based on what I've seen, accepted recommendations from the CABs on hunting quotas without much discussion and without much support being required. In advance of the May meeting, Department of Wildlife made it clear to certain commissioners that they were going to be coming into the meeting with information that showed buck-to-doe ratios, and that they were going to be making recommendations that were to, in effect, reduce all game units, have a quota that reduced all game units to 30 bucks to 100 does. And what my concern is that if we did business as usual, the CABs would come into the meeting unarmed and not prepared to deal with the information that NDOW was going to be bringing forward. And so my intent was to get the word out to the CABs to make sure that they came in with facts this time to basically present to the commission the basis for their deviation from the department's recommendations. So that was the reason for what I did. So the issue is the email that I sent out. This office has jurisdiction to investigate OML complaints and to seek civil remedies, including injunctive relief, to require compliance with the OML or to prevent violations of the OML. Criminal misdemeanor penalty and monetary penalty are also authorized relief in any court of competent jurisdiction. A single document written by Board of Wildlife Commission Chair Mike Macbeth, which was emailed to the chair of each county advisory board to manage wildlife, underlies the entire complaint. No other facts are alleged. The sole allegation is that Board of Wildlife Commissioner Chair Mike Macbeth's letter started a debate and a serial discussion among commissioners and CABs concerning a matter upon which the Board of Wildlife Commission would have to take action at the May 11, 12th public meeting. The complaint alleges Macbeth's correspondence was a deliberation, but complainant assumes there must have been serial communications amongst the commissioners. Assumes. We interviewed Mr. Lent in our office, asking him for further information underlying his allegation that serial communications amongst the commissioners occurred following the chair's release of the May 3rd, 2012 email letter to the CABs. There are no facts in the complaint or in the interview that might connect the May 3rd, 2012 letter to deliberation among a quorum of commissioners, and although complainant admitted he did not have personal knowledge regarding commission communications, we contacted the current commissioners mentioned to us during Mr. Lent's interview. 3 current commissioners were mentioned by Mr. Lent, but each commissioner stated to us he did not discuss the letter with any other commissioner. Chairman Macbeth submitted an affidavit stating he did not discuss the letter with any other commissioners, nor did he receive any commissioner correspondence about the matter, about the letter. The Board of Wildlife Commissioner and the CABs are separate entities, each established under separate statutes. CAB chairman and CAB members are not connected with the Board of Wildlife Commission and do not deliberate with or vote on matters that ultimately are entrusted to the Board of Wildlife Commission. Therefore, any correspondence sent to them from Board of Wildlife Commission chair does not implicate the OML prohibition against serial or walking quorums. Deliberation is not implicated as the Board of Wildlife Commission chair and the CAB members are not members of the same public body, a statutory requirement before deliberation may take place. I'm going to skip the next paragraph. In this complaint, there was no factual support for the allegation that the commissioners illegally deliberated. The complaint expressed a legal conclusion that a violation must have occurred because the letter Chair Macbeth sent was intended to give talking points to the CABs, which is claimed as deliberation toward a decision. But this allegation is only conclusory and was without an arguable basis in fact. Nevertheless, we reviewed the letter for even inferential support for the allegation or other evidence that its stated purpose ran afoul of the definition of deliberation as adopted by the Nevada Supreme Court. The letter solicited relevant and factual supported recommendations from the CABs which could be used to offer alternative quotas to Indow's proposed hunt quotas. The letter addressed CAB members, not commissioners. CABs routinely present information to the Board of Wildlife Commission regarding issues affecting its members and the nature and quality of the hunt resource in their county. Because CABs and the Board of Wildlife Commission are independent, Chair Macbeth's request did not violate the OML. Chair Macbeth's letter was sent to the chair of each CAB and perhaps distributed to its members, but there are no other facts or statements from anyone else to suggest that a quorum of commissioners discussed the letter among themselves, nor were there any facts or explanation from the complainant as to how the contents of this letter constituted deliberation. We do not find a violation of the OML by Chair Macbeth or the Board of Wildlife Commission based on the allegation of this complaint. So, all I can say is I don't know how prior commissions used to do things, but I can tell you that myself and most of the individuals that sit on this commission at least, are upstanding and follow the law. And we have never had any deliberations outside of the meetings that we've held. And that's the end of it. Thank you.
Any other commission items? Correspondence? Jeremy?
Yeah, just had 2 items. One in regards to Commissioner Rain's discussion on the wolves in Wyoming. I he may have forgotten that we had a discussion following our meeting in Wapwa over the winter where we actually talked to commissioners from Wyoming who explained to us the arduous process that they used in developing their wolf plan hand in hand with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and they actually applauded our efforts to leave the wolf as a big game animal at this time, so that we could have those efforts going forward. So, you know, what we saw in a newspaper I don't think accurately reflects what's going on and what kind of level of work went on in Wyoming. That being said, there was a news story last night on Channel 8, and I saw the news commentator indicate it was a story on the wild horses on the Sheldon and the Roundup, and there was an indication that there is also bighorn sheep on the Sheldon that were non-native to the area. So I don't think we can always assume that what we see in the press is factually accurate. The other point I wanted to bring up, and most of the folks in the room are probably aware of this, but we did have a special meeting last Friday where we took action to close the sage-grouse season in Hunt Unit 031. The reason to do so was due to approximately 80% of the sage-grouse habitat in that area had been burned or affected by several wildfires. Commissioner Raines had expressed concern that we weren't following the state's process with a letter that came out of the governor's office indicating that DCNR, Department of Conservation Natural Resources, would be heading some of the sage-grouse efforts for the state going forward. I did have a chance to talk with Director Leo Drozdoff on Friday, and he reassured me that he had no issue with our action, that letter really is more coordination for the governor's sage-grouse team moving forward, and I think we'll hear more about that tomorrow. But in no way do they intend to excerpt the commission's authorities under law or our duties, and he was fine with our actions. So just to clear up any questions that anyone may have had on that, and that's it for now.
Any other commission items? Seeing none,